Welcome to another episode of Henrietta's Hormones. And so, what I'd like to focus on is interpersonal skills. And in Scotland, at the New Year, people come from all over the world to celebrate in Scotland because they have the pipers, they have the singing, of course, they have the alcohol that makes you happy, they have the bells, they have everything. But one of the most famous things to do when the new year hits is to sing Auld Lang Syne. And Auld Lang Syne is talking about relationships and people that you've kind of had a little bit of falling out. And so we love to sing that song. And so we're going to focus in on people, and especially when we are together and we're in a medical setting or just even in a work setting, we want to promote the best kind of positive thing we can because they have a lot of worry and everything else. And so with no further ado, I'd like to introduce one of my most favorite people in the world. And this is Zach Thomas. And I've worked with him for several years. He brings a lot of inspiration. He brings a lot of approachability and wisdom. He is a medical assistant, and I call him my right arm at work, and he really is. And so here he is, guys.
As she said, I'm Zach Thomas. I'm a medical assistant. I've been a medical assistant for 8 years. Oh, I don't feel like I should be old enough to say that. But yeah, so I've been a medical assistant for a long time, and interpersonal skills is something I'm passionate about. It's something I've done a lot of reading and research on when I'm trying to work on my own inner stuff and how I can relate to other people. Well, I mean, to start off with that tradition in the new year of letting go of things and then bringing in the new year so that you like have space and have room. It's interesting because in therapy and in a lot of like psychology circles, a term that they often use right now is holding space.
Gotcha.
And it's to provide like a safe environment for something to happen, right? Because, I mean, if you think about it, like a little child trying to walk is going to stumble. And so you're not going to take that child and put it on the street and say, okay, now it's time to walk, right? Because you know that it's going to stumble because it's just learning how to do it. So then in the same way, if you're experiencing something that you've never experienced before, say you broke an arm and it's really getting to you because you're not being able to do the things that you were able to do, especially if it was your dominant arm, right?
And the pain.
Yeah, the pain on top of that. So super stressful, right? And you've never experienced this before, but then we expect ourselves to walk on the pavement and it's messy and it's rough and it hurts and it's awful, but we need to find people who will hold space for us. So I love that you're like letting everything out, just naturally flow out because you're also not forcing it, right?
Right.
But then you're opening the front door to hold space for people's growth.
Right.
I heard a quote once that said, if we ask people to give up hate, we have to be there for them when they do. Which is very interesting because it's really easy, especially like you look at those who just are full of a lot of hate and stuff, and it's easy to be really frustrated with them. But then it's like, okay, but if they were to genuinely give up hate, would we be in a spot where we would be willing to sit with them in that? Something that's huge, especially with patients that come in who are stressed out, they experience what they call meta emotions. For example, say I'm having a conversation with you and regardless of the content of the conversation, I break down and I start crying and I'm unable to find composure. And now on top of crying, I'm feeling, oh my goodness, why am I crying? What am I doing? This is embarrassing that I'm crying in front of her. And so then I'm blaming myself and I'm putting shame on myself because I'm like, I shouldn't be crying because there's all this pressure, social pressures as well. Why are you crying in front of people? You're supposed to just be so stoic. When you have all those meta emotions, then you can't even touch the emotion by itself. We can't even touch the reason I'm crying because we've piled on all this stuff on top of it. And all that stuff is something that a lot of it has to do with a negative inner critic. But it's crazy how when they're coming in, they're stressing about being sick, But a lot of times they're stressing about how they look, how they're being perceived, especially if they're coming in for something more personal. It's like, oh, this is really embarrassing. And now they're going to be looking at me, how they're going to be looking at me on top of this, the health stress that they're feeling. And so when you can provide and kind of hold space for them, you kind of allow them like, hey, give yourself some grace. Like, this is a new situation. This is frightening, especially if they come in for mental health or stress like that.
Yes.
I take a second. Or even if they come in for STIs, I always take a step back and I go, I just want you to know this is very responsible of you to do, especially if they come in without symptoms. It's hard enough to experience this, and it's even harder to ask for help. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that we can help you do this. Well, and especially from a woman's perspective, women have this, I mean, the word hysterical literally comes from hysterectomy, because they used to think that your womb was moving into different parts of your body. So they used to be like, oh, like if there was a woman that was anxious or stressing about her shoulder, they would call it nerves, or they called it hysteria, because they were like, oh, your womb has moved up into your shoulder and that's what's causing this. And that's what's causing you to freak out emotionally, which is why hysteria turned into what it is now, which is very interesting, but also kind of disheartening, because it's like the word itself comes from medicine's failure to women.
This is true. And I've found that it's definitely getting better.
Oh, yeah,
and that
totally.
Women's hormones are finally being embraced, and that, I just don't feel like the lone soldier in the castle,
anymore,
warding off the enemy. And so I love that it's more acceptable. But it's an interesting concept, though, because the reproductive system in and of itself is its separate entity, and it does want to do its own thing, but it really affects the brain. And so we are way more complicated than people give us credit.
With women coming into the doctor, there's already this sense of like, am I going to be believed? Like, am I just going to be told I'm crazy? Am I going to be told this is anxiety? And it's hard, especially when it's something hormonal, because these are fundamental things inside of your body. And so when there's imbalances, when things are off, then it's affecting you on a fundamental level. And if you don't understand or have the words for it, or even know what to look for, it's so easy to blame yourself, because you're like, something isn't measuring up, but it couldn't be anything else, so it must be me.
Correct. And a lot of women that come to me, Zach, they feel very dismissed and not listened to. Mind you, though, there are doctors out there who do give them the time of day and don't say they're crazy or they're just, imagining things.
Yes.
But I've seen too many, though, sitting by me and telling me this.
And like you said, it's crazy that the human decency of holding space for someone, that's what you're doing when these women come to you. You're holding space for them where they've never had that before. But when you provide that space for somebody, you help regulate that for them, and you say, hey, it's okay. All of these things are happening, right? You are feeling this stress. You are feeling these symptoms, and it's really stressful, and you've had all these experiences where nobody's listened to you, and that is awful. But all of this doesn't mean it's hopeless. And because in their mind, this is all they have. This is all that's in their view, and all that keeps happening is that they keep running into roadblocks. So they keep reinforcing in their brain that what they have is hopeless. And then the more that happens, the easier it is to become an identity and to become a shame about it, right? But once you're able to hold space for them in that, and you say, hey, this doesn't have to mean this. It can mean something else.
Right.
I'm sure you've had so many experiences where patients kind of just like,
they get the
aha.
Yeah, that's what it's called, the aha moment.
Exactly.
But it's an aha moment that gives them hope. Like, I get so emotional when I talk about my patients, or really anyone that's hurt. Like, even like the people that I work with.
Totally. And what's huge about being able to sort it out and move on, especially in the moment, is recognizing what's happening and when it's happening. Because it's hard to feel safe enough to express disappointment in something that happened when everyone around you is like perfect and prim and proper, right? So there are times in my life where I experience pain or stress or frustration. And in my mind, I'm like, if I keep this in and I don't share it with them, it's going to be better. But then I've learned over time and talking to like Josh after the fact, like on their side of things, it didn't feel like, hey, I'm protecting you from this hurtful thing. It felt
Right.
like I'm cutting you out. And so with the best intentions, like I wanted to protect them from this stressful, terrifying thing that was stressing me out, right?
Right.
But I ended up shutting him out. And so it's very easy to have the most pure, most genuine intentions and for things to not land the way that you want them to. Like you said, things not coming across, that's not a judgment on you. That's not a, hey, this is the type of person you are. This
Uh-huh.
is a, hey, due to the stress and the circumstances and conditions that you were in, this is how these things came across.
Yeah. And I couldn't do it without them. I mean,
Totally.
I think that had to be recognized as well. But
You're amazing.
I think, I think what I'm trying to say here is we try to get that with our patients.
Mm.
We try to see that when they come with a problem, it comes from how they're feeling inside. Like usually when they come, they're ready to be fixed. I always joke. In Scotland, we wait for the sheep, but in America, there is no way you can wait for the sheep. You've got to gently drive through them because you have no time for yourself. You have no time to even think sometimes because A, B, C, D, and it goes on has to be done. And you're just pushed back.
Well, and I think too, like you said, with people coming in to see you and to have the things coming from their emotions, it's like by the time they're coming to you, especially the way that the societal demands on women, like you said, A, B, C, D, go. It's like kids sick. Okay, now you have to stay home and stay with the kids. Okay, got to get the kids to work, to school.
Yeah.
This tells you where I'm at in my life. I go to work.
Fine.
But you just have a million different things to do and it's so stressful, and the endless lists can make it seem so overwhelming and so shameful.
Mhm.
And so you're not supposed to care for yourself there, right? This is
Right.
the implications of society, the messages that it sends. Self-care is not okay. And so by the time that they get themselves to the doctor's office, we're far past like the threshold of
Mhm.
they should have been seen. They should have been seen forever ago. But life beats them down so much.
They get a lot of burnout. They get disappointed in themselves. And they just feel like there isn't, sorry, I'm getting emotional whenever I talk about people like this. They feel like they don't have an advocate. And we really strive to figure out how we can be an advocate in a safe environment without taking over their agenda or whatever is coming forth.
To make sure they have a say in it.
I think that's our greatest challenge, everybody, is to bring the mental health into our everyday lives, into the small things that we're trying to do in a very long day, especially. And I think it doesn't really matter, what you're involved in. It's still the same.
Yeah. We're all in this together.
I'm just really privileged to know Zach, and I'm really privileged to be in a situation where people matter to me. As you know, I started at the Florence Nightingale School, and she was misjudged. She wasn't seen for who she was, and she dedicated her whole life to medicine, to math, to policies, to procedures. She saved lives upon lives. And just to have her as part of my hero is amazing. But I have heroes around me, and I felt like this hero need to come and hear some of the very soft but yet meaningful philosophy behind everyday nuances, everyday frustrations, everyday difficulties. I tell you, when I started this podcast, I just felt like it was because so many people are misunderstood. And this type of medicine, which we call functional medicine, I believe functional medicine is where it's at, because we get down to the heart and soul of medicine. And, of course, the standard of care is very important with doctors that do need to keep it as well.
And will always be upheld.
Yeah, and always be upheld. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I wanted to shine a better light on a stigma. And functional medicine has a big stigma.
Yeah. The way to challenge stigma is opening your mouth. Well, and you got to talk too. You can't just... But that goes without saying. But I said it already, so...
Well, Zach, I appreciate you coming and sharing.
I was happy to be here.
It's been amazing.
Thank
you. Truly, truly.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
And there will be another time and another Sunday evening.
I'd love to be back.
I always think Sunday evenings is the most perfect because you've gone through the week and you've got the new week ahead of you and you don't really know what's going to meet you.
Right.
But if you've got a Sunday night thing, just to have a listen.
Take a little breather.
So look at yourself in the mirror and just say, you know what? No matter what anybody says, I'm an okay person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. But you know what? I think more and more life is realizing it takes a whole village. And I know that sounds very cliche, but it's very accurate.
Yeah. We just got to stop trying to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we really can't.
I know, we really can't. So, thank you, Sam.
Of course.
So much.